Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and welcome to our ongoing series talking about specific units within each element, their viability in PvE and PvP, as well as what's going to be coming out for this element in the future. Today, we're going to be covering Light, which is one of the strongest PvP composition teams in the game, as well as an up-and-coming, really powerful PvE element. So let's go ahead and dig in. I think it's really important to note, and I think most people know, that Light is primarily the strongest PvP element in the game right now, and it has had these kind of resurgent times in its history, right? Englebert has clearly come and gone. Yuna has come and entered into the meta. We've had Jaden appear. Elena just dominated everything. So it's important to note, as we're talking about these units, I am going to distinguish between PvP and PvE because a lot of them are significantly useful for one or the other. First, we're going to talk about Lucio, particularly in a PvE capacity. He is free. He gives one of the best TMRs in the game that does give very powerful AP generation besides bells. He has access to 3-hit attacks, which can be either piercing, slashing, or striking. He also has the ability to lower defense by 25 and light by 38. And I think a lot of people are underestimating the power level that Lucio brings to a PvE light element composition, particularly a PvE light slash composition. We don't really have a reliable way to lower defense on the light element side, and we never really had a reliable way to lower light resistance as well. Unless you had Summerkill, who is a limited time unit. You could use Sakura, but Sakura is still only level 99, primarily a magic unit, and her light resistance lowering capabilities are significantly less than Lucio at 30 compared to 38. So I think it's important to note how important it is for Lucio to come onto the scene, the fact that he's free, and the fact that he's going to open up the door for a lot of PvE light compositions. Now, Jaden came out more recently. He's going to be more of a PvP unit. He has 100% hit, he has a 2x hit, he has barrier break, primarily a missile based unit, but he does have access to sub red mage if he does want to use maybe jamming thrust. Jaden, I think we're seeing drop off a little bit right now. He'll probably have a resurgence, coming and going. He, as long as light is in the meta, you're going to run into Jaden in some form of capacity. But he does seem to be dropping off now that we have Lock. When we have Violet coming out, we may see him drop off a little bit more, but I think you'll see him sprinkled in. In terms of PvE, I don't really find Jaden that powerful. I think I would rather bring a composition that gives light and slash to the party, and that usually is pretty easy to find in light element comps. He also doesn't offer anything party-wide in the terms of lowering defense, lowering spirit, lowering stats, so that's definitely a drawback in terms of PvE. Elena needs no introduction, I think, for everybody that knows her. She is a limited time unit, but she's limited in the sense that her banner comes and goes maybe 4 or 5 times per year, so she does come around quite a bit. Her TMR is pretty powerful, gives some pretty powerful dark resistance to kind of buff the party. She's gonna be one of the best units you've ever pulled for light. She has a 2x, 3x, 4x hit, which enables her in PvE content to raise up that chain. It is important to know, though, with Elena, if you are planning on bringing her in PvE content, her attacks are considered magic based. So for example, Lucio lowering defense is not really going to benefit her as much as maybe, say, bringing Mario to lower spirit. So you do have to consider that. You have to really consider Elena is a chain builder. She's not really going to hit that cap damage nonstop. She does have 100% hit in her kit if you do sub her Kododama, and she does have really powerful solo power because she is an evasion unit in a PvE setting. So not only does she also have access to guts for PvP, she has access to insane evasion. She's just going to be one of those units that is going to be around for a very long time, and I think we're never really going to see the full end of Elena in the game that we're playing right now. Fina is in the must-haves and is one of 2 units that are not UR in this list. Fina's here for a couple of reasons. You're going to be utilizing her early on for full life. She also has great heals. You can potentially utilize her in cost reduced parties because she's an MR that has access to the full healing spectrum, so she's really going to be able to support really powerfully. She also has with her TMR the ability of End Charm on it, which is a very unique PvE aspected piece of gear. You don't find Charm very often, and in Select Quest, even in the light Select Quest, you are actually going to find situations where you just need to use this TMR to charm the opponent. So Fina is one of those units I would say universally needs to be leveled. Everybody needs her. They need her for her access to cheer, which if you do level to above level 11 will actually permanently raise your character's faith when you're using it. So a lot of players use Fina for their faith raising unit, and you know, myself included. You can almost always find a friend Fina on your friend list that you can have set up and ready to cheer your party so that you can get that faith up. So Fina, 100% useful. She's so powerful with her heals, particularly with her EX. More recently, we do see her a lot in PvP. You see it a little bit less now though, now that we are kind of shifting away from Jaden and Englebert and kind of going into like Englebert lock Elena, right? So you're seeing less Finas and more evasion tanks and kind of aggro drawing tanks. But that doesn't change the fact that she's a very powerful unit and she's going to be with us for a very long time. Englebert has come and gone, and I imagine will continue to come and go as the ages go on. He's beefy. He's probably the best tank in the game. He also has access to Guts, and when he uses his Guts ability, it taunts the opponent as well. So he's been seeing an uptick in popularity, particularly I think now that Locke has come out. I've seen a lot of people running Englebert instead of Jaden. I personally like Jaden more because I have that additional 100% hit, but I understand why people are running Englebert, and I understand the allure of, you know, drawing Elena and Locke's fire to him. So definitely, if you are looking to build a tank for this game or a tank for your PvP team, Englebert would be really good, but I would say he's only good in a composition where you maybe have other light units. I don't think he would be good in other situations, and I think there's a lot of unique circumstances with light right now that enable Englebert to thrive as a tank. That would be, you know, dependent on, you know, the fact that it's a light slash meta. You know, if this was a magic attacking meta, Englebert would be dead, right? All it takes is a Black Rose Helena on the other team to one-shot Englebert. So you just have to be really conscious of Englebert, not to put him against magic attack based parties, and he'll thrive pretty much in all those situations. Locke, the new limited free evasion unit that has come out recently with Final Fantasy VI, very powerful. His TMR of course boosts agility and luck. He has access to a 3-hit attack, and you know, we're seeing him paired a lot with Elena right now because he does have access to re-raise. He has very high evasion. He's going to be one of those units that, you know, you're going to see Elena, you're going to see Locke, you're going to see Violet for a long time, and that's going to be a very powerful evasion-based party. One thing I really like about Locke for PvE, though, and I think a lot of people, you know, kind of glaze over this, is the fact that his limit break lowers slash resistance by 38 and counter chance by 100. He's one of the only light units that lowers slash resistance, where, you know, if you go over to dark, you have a few units that are not limited that lower slash resistance. But the fact that you, like, I feel like we've been waiting for this. The fact that we're getting Lucio to lower defense and light, you know, for free. We're getting Locke to lower slash resistance by 38 for free. Like, these are things that light slash has needed to be effective in the PvE environment for a long time. And the fact that we're finally getting them makes Locke both a very powerful PvP unit as well as a very powerful PvE unit. And I would almost say if there was an order of priority for importance in terms of accounts, it would probably go Lucio into Locke right now, just because the two of these units are really going to make up the solid base of PvE light slash compositions, particularly for being able to hit that damage cap and clear content. I put Phoebe in here just for the real new players who maybe stumble upon this video. Phoebe, one of those units I always recommend leveling, has a great agility based TMR. She's easy to max. She has time mage. She has access to full life. She's just a unit that, you know, she's gonna do well by you. If you don't have access to another healer, you will need a healer to start the game out. She's gonna carry you. She's gonna take you real far. Elsorel just hitting her 120. I've been messing around with her a little bit. She's pretty powerful. She's got a 3-hit attack, of course. She's a brawler. What's interesting about her is she has a lot of defense pen, along with the fact that she's very, I guess I would categorize it as AP smart. She has the capability to survive and thrive without actually having bells or any AP generating TMR equipped, which is a pretty big deal. So I think Elsorel going for her 120 is a really good idea. I think it's going to be very foundational, again, if you want to set up that light slash composition. I recognize there's a lot of quote unquote free units or limited time free units that are free in light for a very long time. However, not everybody watching this video is going to have access to those units. So you know, I want to recommend units that are fully available for people, units that they're able to get, right? You look at the amount of limited units here. Everybody will say, well, you have Cecil, well, you have Thancred, and absolutely, they're really good in light slash compositions. However, and yes, they're free, or were free, rip Cecil. You know, they're restricted by the fact that they're limited. Very similar with Summerkill. Yes, Summerkill has a light reducing limit break, but the fact that we get this on Lucio now makes it so much easier to access light reduction, whereas previously you would have had to use Sakura to get this light reduction, right? You would have had to have Thancred to get the defense -30, right? And you don't have to worry about that anymore. You can just throw Lucio in for PvE content and actually have access to that and build towards that cap damage. Now, Yuna is the other unit that I considered putting on there because she is going to be a very powerful unit coming in the near future. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the board right now, but I think Yuna, since we're talking about limited units right now, she has access to full life, she has 100% hit, she has a second mastery, and Valifor is coming out in the future. I think Yuna, because we know she's going to be out in the next 2 months, is one of those units you could potentially plan for. She's going to be very powerful in PvE circumstances. There's a lot of content that Yuna can solo, uniquely because she is Yuna, because she has self-heals, because she has very powerful hits. But that type of content, like, yes, she can solo that type of content, but that content is kind of rare in itself, and you really have to have like the VCs, the limited time VCs to make it work, and it just becomes a little bit problematic. So while Yuna is fantastic and great in both PvE and PvP, I do think, you know, maybe just keep your eyes on her and grab her when you can in the near future. Warrior of Light is one of those units that I feel like is very powerful, but he's aging to the point now where, yes, he's viable. He's a tank. He has a 3-hit limit break that gives Protect and Shell. He has, you know, Brave Presence, which gives, you know, a taunt on him. I feel like he's aging out a little bit right now. You know, it's interesting to see Englebert use so much more over Warrior of Light. I feel like Warrior of Light will probably need to get a second mastery buff in order to be more relevant now. Of course, if you have him and he's your only option, he's going to be a good unit. But I think there is other units, and I think he suffers in PvE content. Yes, he does have the 3-hit, but that's pretty much all he brings to the party. Summerkill, interesting note here. I think Summerkill is one of the strongest light units in the game. And I think if you are someone who is building a light slash composition, and you want to invest into a limited time unit, I would actually say that Summerkill, besides Elena, right? Besides Elena and Locke, is going to be the best limited unit that you can invest in on your account. Not only does she have, you know, light reduction, she has access to steal time. She has a 2x hit. She has access to sub soldier. She can drain HP. She can do frostbite. She hits cap damage really quick. She's going to be that heavy hitter for light, very similar to the way Ruinstern is a heavy hitter for dark, and she's going to do it very well. So Summerkill, very powerful, probably my top limited unit recommendation besides Elena and Locke. I would actually say she's my second top limited PvE recommendation, Locke being my first, Elena of course being my number 1 for PvP. Ramza, you're never going to see this guy. They haven't had a release on Ramza in almost a year. He does have a 3x hit. He has 100% hit, but you know, the day they release Ramza, everybody's gonna know. And the first thing you're gonna look at is his EX kit. He's gonna be powerful. He'll be really good, with Elena, Locke, and Violet when he is kind of max leveled, because he does scale off magic. He is actually an evasion unit. I think a lot of people forget that evasion Ramza used to be a thing. So it'll be interesting to see Ramza slide into the light evasion formation in the future. But right now we have no word on when this is coming out. And I would not count on this for any of your compositions. Cecil. TMR is amazing for farming bravery on your units, for auto farming bravery. Cecil I've fallen more in love with lately. I really didn't like him at 99. And recently, particularly with Sub Soldier, his job level 120 ability, he does have 2x hit. He has defense pen. You know, he used to be a really slow unit, and he's still relatively slow. But the fact that he caps damage, he has some ranged potential in his kit, he's getting to be one of my more favorite light slash units. Again, I would always choose Summerkill over him, or Locke, or Elena, or Lucio, but he might be a fifth that I put in. He kind of competes with a slot with Rob, and it's hard to justify putting Cecil in when you have Rob, because Rob has so much higher range. He has more crit chance, so he's going to hit damage cap pretty easy. So Cecil is kind of a, you know, not worth it to pull in my mind, maybe worth it to grab his TMR. But if it's anything like the last Final Fantasy IV event where Cecil was not free, I would skip hardcore. Thancred, limited and free, has access to defense -30 and a 2x hit ability. Thancred's TMR, light resistance up, is very powerful as well. I like Thancred. I think the problem that we have with Thancred is that he is not always going to be in the best spot to deal damage. Is kind of my biggest, and his AI is a little wonky. So you will have to do some fine tuning with him. I do think he could join a light slash composition, but again, you have to remember he's competing for a slot against like Summerkill, Locke, Elena. He does bring defense -30 in his kit if you do have him 120. He also has a recent mastery buff, as well as a buff to his weapon, which gives him light attack up on it. So if you're looking to cap damage, Thancred could be a good option. I'm a little cautious around Thancred, particularly with his -30% magic. You know, I think his AI, I think he's a little bit old. I don't think he has the range necessarily that other light element slash units have. When I've tried to do light slash compositions with Thancred in the past, very similar with Cecil, either, you know, agility was too low, we weren't hitting cap damage, you know, situations like that. So I tended to always lean more in towards Rob, or actually Elshira and Mariel, actually, which brings us to the non-limited side of light units. And there's a couple things that people underestimate here. So we'll talk about Mariel EX first. Probably one of the more underestimated cost-reduced light element units. She's a MR. She has the ability to lower spirit by 30. She has Subcalculator, access to steal time. She's very tanky. Mariel is like a offensive, beefy Fina, right? Like, she's gonna get in there. She can be evade, so she synergizes really well with potentially Elena and Locke if you're running a reduced cost light team. She's kind of can do it all, and you have to consider the spirit -30 on her job level 120 ability is going to synergize really well with Elena and increase Elena's damage. So lots to keep in mind here. And I think Mariel, if there's one unit I love, and if there's one unit that's like my favorite MR unit in light right now, it's always been Mariel. She's done good for me. Camilo, I've fallen out of love with. I think Camilo is one of those units. He's free because you can get him from the select quest. He's kind of a brawler. He has a lot of defense pen. He can throw on a lot of dark resistance. Camilo really shines when there is a dark meta or a magic meta in any form, because he's able to get good resistance on both of those. And he's one of those units where when Black Rose Helena was running rampant and, you know, Camilo had just come out, I was running Camilo as a brawler with magic resistance and dark resistance, and, you know, running his sub pugilist so that he could use striking attacks on the opponent because nobody has striking resistance, and he was doing really powerful. So, you know, to make that work though, you're going to need to have the Scions VC so that you have dark resistance. You're going to have, you know, limited time VCs on the light side. So, you know, he's a good unit, you know, particularly now that he has a special weapon as well. I don't think he's worth it. Like, he's good, but I don't think he's worth the effort for, you know, potentially new players to go for, just because you need to level up literally like so many MR units. And if you're a new player, you would be much better putting your resources into like Fina or Englebert or, you know, Locke or Lucio, right? Like, invest in a unit that's going to be more broadly useful than Camilo. And then if you're wanting to like finite and finish off your light composition, Camilo would be kind of like a fun UR to level. Elshra, really good for light slash and capping light slash damage. You know, Elshra was one of my go-tos besides Rob for capping light slash damage, particularly in Select Quest. Other than that, she has access to Time Mage, Sub Brood Knight. Her Sub White Mage has no access to Raise, so she really kind of struggles in that regard. But I would list her at, you know, a good 7 out of 10. I think she's a good unit. I think she kind of carries the battle, but she does struggle a little bit in the long term. Very similarly, Vistral and Grace here, these two kind of struggle as well. Vistral can hit cap damage because Sub Soldier, he has Steel Time, Steel Heart. Really though, you're only going to ever use that in Select Quest. Grace gets overshadowed completely. Grace gets overshadowed completely by Fina, by Yuna, right? By these healers that are much more versatile, much more important in a PvE setting. The only thing and the only saving grace that Grace has is that she has access to Mana Strike. So Mana Strike, of course, being a very powerful ability that can lower AP. In Select Quest, this is going to be pretty important, so keep that in mind. Sakura, one of the most unique units in the game, has access to dual elements, both thunder and lightning. She can lower the elements by 30 each. She has access to a 3-hit attack with her LB, and she has a 100% hit attack. She's a monster. She was a monster for a long time. For a long time, you ran Yuna, Sakura, and, you know, potentially Warrior of Light. And that was a composition that people were scared of. But she's kind of fallen out as 120s have come out. Her 120 will be coming out here in the near future. Whether or not that's going to be enough to really bring her back to life, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see a lot of light magic meta, and I don't think there's a lot of situations where we will utilize her. So I think she's kind of fallen off the wagon, and I don't think we're going to see her get back on it anytime soon. The last two units, Rob and Mashri. These units are, I would argue, a little bit niche. I think Rob is a must level because his armor is used for the Keen Blade strategy in PvP, and it's also really good in PvE. If you are needing to use a buff to improve CT on your party, this is going to be a really good buff that'll do that. So I think for that reason, Rob is pretty much required nowadays. He does have Sub Soldier, so in light slash compositions, he will hit cap damage relatively easily. He has Machine Killer, Stone Killer. He also has Mana Strike. And if you have his own VC on him, he does have access to a 100% hit attack. So in all of these situations, Rob is just one of those units. You know, he has a VC that's kind of designed for him, that's really powerful for light slash. He's just one of those units that is like the bread and butter of light slash. Mashri, very niche. I would not recommend leveling her. However, there are situations where you do need her for status resistance if you are wanting to do all PvE content. Does have a 2x hit for striking. Her TMR is very powerful. A lot of guilds use this in their builds, so you may see this TMR being a requirement in the future. Honestly though, I've never used Mashri and been like, I'm so glad I leveled her. I think she's just one of those units where she's always going to have a niche fan club, and I would just hard recommend staying away from her. In terms of what's upcoming for light in the future, we have a couple of things that are a pretty big deal. We've had Violet come out here, which is one of those things that, you know, she's going to be releasing with the Persona 5 collaboration, and she's going to slide in just like Locke and Elena. She's going to be that evasion light, you know, ongoing issue that we have. She is limited. She has access to gut. She has evasion. She has a 2x and a 3x hit with the capability to do both missile and slashing based attacks. She's going to be powerful. The one thing she's missing though, she doesn't have a 100% hit attack. She's very focused on critical hit rate. So I'm not sure how well she'll synergize with Elena. I think she'd synergize more with Locke and a physical team, but she will be really good for PvE. She is going to be really good for light slash PvE. So if you are someone who is wanting to, like, you know, top off your light slash composition for the future to have like a solid 5 team, she's going to be really good. Valifor is also going to be coming out. Now, Valifor is an Esper when Final Fantasy X re-releases. And that's, of course, going to bring Yuna, Tidus, and kind of all of their secondary masteries. Going to be a magic-based Esper, going to come with Magic Plus, Magic Attack Plus, Attack Ability Activation Minus, Light Attack Plus, Dark Killer Plus. A very good all-around light Esper. Going to come with the Valifor VC, which for the individual unit will give AoE resistance plus 10, magic plus 10%. Party-wide, it's going to give magic penetration plus 35, magic attack plus 18. This is really powerful. We very rarely have access to magic attack penetration, and the fact that light element is going to have access to magic attack penetration, I don't know if this will change potentially anything right away, but maybe we will see Yuna be a little bit more viable, particularly with, you know, evasion still going on. I can see these holies hitting a lot harder. It also at the max level gives Dark Killer plus 25. We're also going to be getting a non-limited VC for Jaden, for Jaden and Oberon on it. It's going to have attack and magic on it. For the individual unit, it'll give light attack plus 5, luck plus 10%. Party-wide, it's going to give acquired EP plus 50%, luck plus 18%. And it's going to give party-wide light resistance plus 20. So we will definitely see this VC being used. If you're a light composition, you're going to want to have this to have additional light resistance. It's just going to make sense. All right, everybody, we're finally at the end of this video. I hope you guys like this longer form content. I'm going to continue to do this video series and cover every single element. So make sure you let me know down in the comments what element you want me to cover next. I'm thinking it'll probably be Earth, but I'm not 100% sure. And again, if you want to support me, guys, you can use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins, or you can go to dig.gs/offer as well. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.